In some recent NBC News polling, 63% of Americans, nearly two-thirds of people surveyed, said they did not want Roe versus Wade overturned. Yet Republicans, they are doubling down. Former Vice President Mike Pence is now calling for a nationwide ban, as many in his party are celebrating the ruling. I want to bring in to discuss Jennifer Palmieri, the former White House communications director for President Obama, Tim Miller, contributor to The Bulwark and former communications director for Jeb Bush, and our good friend, author, and presidential historian, Michael Beschloss. His latest work is Presidents of War. Jennifer, let's get right to it. We see protests in the streets across the country. Will this mobilize Democratic voters, young ones especially?
Yeah, I think it can, but Democratic candidates have to lead the charge. I look to you can't expect that it will happen organically, and I would point to Gretchen Whitmer is sort of an example of a candidate who is very much leaning into the abortion fight, but also just concerned about the rollback of rights in general. She has a zombie law. So in Michigan, in Michigan, there is a law on the books that would ban abortion if Roe is overturned. It's in the courts right now. She filed a lawsuit against that earlier this year. She did a lot of press around this issue. She had one of your colleagues fly out to Michigan yesterday to be part of a roundtable listening to pro-choice women, Republicans and Democrats in the state. She's not shying away from it. She's going right to it. And I think, this is an existential threat. That right to American women, it is gone. There are other rights that are on the butching block, and you just can't shy away from it. You have to go lead right into it.
Tim, help us understand the Republican calculation. This is a wildly unpopular decision that they're celebrating as a huge win.
Well, it's been a 50-year fight for Republicans, and I think that there are obviously some in the pro-life movement.
For some Republicans.
Yeah, right.
So there's some in the hold on a second. You were a Republican for 20 years, right? Downstairs in my house are my mother and father, lifetime Republicans. None, the three of you, this has not been a fight for you. They don't feel good about this.
Well, right, and so that's what I was saying. I think there are a couple parts of the Republican Party, right? I mean, me and your parents, we're not in the Republican Party anymore. So a lot of the old, George H.W. Bush moderate Republicans in the suburbs have been pushed out of the party, and I think those are people that it's important for the Democrats to talk to right now in the midterms, because it's a two-pronged thing. They've got to mobilize the base, but also speak to the kind of Romney-Biden voters that helped put Biden over the top that Hillary didn't get in 2016. So I think that there are two elements to this. The problem for the Republicans and the political issue that they're going to face is that in some of these states, like what you have in Texas, these 5-week bans, these immediate after fertilization bans, even mainstream Republicans don't like that. This is a very small part of the Republican base that is mobilized by that, and I think that if you look at a state like Georgia, Wisconsin, both very important swing states, Wisconsin trigger law is going to go into effect. Georgia trigger law is going to go into effect. Those are both very important states coming up this November with big cities, Milwaukee, Madison, Atlanta, where there are a lot of voters that maybe have mixed views on abortion, that certainly are not going to be in favor of 5-week bans. And I think those are going to be places that the Democrats are going to have to fight aggressively to make Republicans pay for these more extreme measures that are being taken.
Michael, you know who doesn't have to fight aggressively or get reelected? Supreme Court justices. So when we keep hearing about how unpopular this is, or how the court is really losing the faith of the American people, do these justices care? They're on the bench for life, and they got exactly what they wanted.
That's exactly it. That's the central question here. Look at the tone of that decision today. George Washington would have said, if you've got power, like a 5-person majority, you always exercise it with restraint. You always try to bind the country together. That seems to be what John Roberts was trying to do, which was to introduce a change in abortion rights and narrow them. But what this decision, it sounds just like Donald Trump. This decision was intended to throw scalding acid into the face of people who feel strongly about abortion rights. It was intended to shock. Compare that to, for instance, the decision on Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, saying that you couldn't do separate but equal anymore. You couldn't have a segregated society. Earl Warren said privately as he was talking to justices, this is going to be a big social change to say that the government is now saying there has to be integration. You can't do that with a 5-4 majority. You have to do it with language that's gentle, introduce justice with mercy. And so as a result, that was an overwhelming majority for Brown versus Board of Education, helped that social change to be accepted. But what this did this morning, I think, pushed our beloved bleeding country in the direction of almost civil war over the issue of abortion. One day after it made another decision on gun safety. This is not a Supreme Court trying to heal. This is a Supreme Court of a radical majority that's essentially saying, look at how much power we have, even though we're about a third of the country in terms of sharing our views, we're going to just shove it in your face.
That might sound like Donald Trump, but doesn't sound like Donald Trump for life when it comes to abortion. He didn't take such a strong stance until he realized the value of the evangelical vote. That's when he took a stand.